The last of the funeral attendees filtered away by mid-afternoon. Sam watched the final couple, whom he placed in their mid-80s, make the sign of the cross over the fresh grave, then trudge off toward the parking lot. When he was sure no one was left, he made his way down from his vantage point on the hill, where he had watched the entire ceremony, to stand beside the grave. A pair of cemetery workers briefly regarded Sam as he approached, but they returned to their duties after Sam chose not to engage them. Each armed with a shovel, the workers began to refill the grave for the mound of dirt that, up until a moment ago, had lain hidden underneath a green tarp nearby. Sam grabbed a fistful of the dirt from the pile, stepped to the edge of the grave, and tossed it onto the casket. "Goodbye, Ethel," he said. Tears started to form in his eyes, but were preempted by a voice over his shoulder. "I was wondering if I was going to see you here." Sam turned to discover an old man approaching. He leaned on a cane as he walked, his wispy gray hair fighting and failing against the delicate breeze that blew through the cemetery. He adjusted his glasses as he stepped beside Sam. "Of course I was going to be here," Sam said. "I couldn't imagine not coming. She was a beautiful soul. I'm going to miss her terribly. Thank you, by the way, for, telling me about Ethel." The old man nodded. "You're welcome. She missed you, talked about you a lot toward the end." Sam clamped his eyes shut. 93 years, he said. He opened his eyes and watched the cemetery workers continue to dump shovelfuls of dirt onto the casket. "It just doesn't seem possible. Where does the time go?" "Where indeed," the old man said. He looked at Sam. "It's good to see you." Sam smiled at him through emotional pain. "You too, Franklin." Franklin peered closely at Sam, studying his face, his eyes. He shook his head. "Jesus, you haven't aged a day." Sam shoved his hands into his pockets. "Last week, I was at a convenience store buying beer and was actually carted by the clerk." "Seriously?" Franklin asked. "True story. I asked them how old they thought I was, and they told me it was just policy. Then I asked them if they would have carted me if they thought I looked like I was in my 40s, or even 50s. "What'd they say?" Franklin said. Sam looked at Franklin. "They said probably not." He grinned, but it dissipated in an instant. "Speaking of, what are you now? I'm ashamed to admit that I, don't actually know. I'll be 86 in March." 86, Sam repeated. "My God." "Tell me about it," Franklin said. The cemetery workers found a flow, the sound of the shovels piercing the dirt juxtaposed against the dull thud of it hitting the casket, creating a macabre rhythm. Sam glanced at the sky and the darkening clouds that crawled across the heavens toward him. Then Franklin said, "Hungry?" The cafe they chose to meet at was called Penelope's. It was a small, family-run establishment operated by a middle-aged couple and their 2 children that served fresh, home-style meals. It was a favorite spot of Ethel's, or so Sam was told. Franklin draped his jacket over the back of the chair before sitting. Sam watched him curiously, his mannerisms and movements tempered by the cruel onslaught of time. He flattened his flyaway hair to his scalp. "So," Franklin began, "where are you living these days?" Wyoming," Sam said. "For now." Franklin bobbed his head. He reached for a napkin and began twisting it absently. "And, any progress on your condition?" Sam was waiting for this question. If he were honest, he was surprised Franklin had waited so long to ask. He tossed his head lightly from side to side, then said, "Yes and no." Franklin stopped fidgeting. "What does that mean?" Sam edged forward in his seat. He needed to talk about this, wanted to talk about this, in fact, and Franklin was the only person he could trust with the conversation. "I've been retracing my steps," he began, "from before. All the excavations, digs, and focused studies of ancient civilizations. I've revisited nearly all of them." Franklin frowned. "You think one of those locations has something to do with your situation?" "I do," said Sam. Franklin plucked a pair of menus from a holder and handed one to Sam. "You said you've nearly revisited all of those places." Sam nodded. "Over the past couple of years, I've returned to Guatemala and southeast Mexico and retraced the Mayan sites I studied. Then I traveled to Peru and the Incan ruins at Cusco and Ollantaytambo, where I was project leader. I couldn't find anything to explain what's happening, but there is one place I haven't been back to. It's the last place, in fact. But I can't find it. Can't remember where it is, but I know I was there." Franklin's full attention was on Sam. "What are you talking about? What place?" "It was the dig I attempted with Dr. Offray in the Amazon, 20 or so miles downriver from a small village called Agua Caindo. He and I led a small team down there based on intel that claimed a reclusive tribe lived there and guarded a temple believed to have significant architectural similarities to structures built by the Aztecs." "The Aztecs?" said Franklin. "But weren't they up in Mexico somewhere?" "Central and southern Mexico, to be exact. But now you see the significance of what this find could have meant. How could an Aztec structure exist in the middle of the Amazon? Was there expansion? Had the Aztecs sent envoys south to broaden their empire? Was this place the first, the last, the only place? Or had members of this Amazonian tribe traveled into Mexico, returned and emulated what they saw? And what did the people who guarded the temple know? What was the history?" "That's a lot of questions," Franklin said. Sam smiled. Just a few. But it's this place I believe holds the key to what's happening. But why are you so sure it's that place? Franklin asked. Just because it's the last place you checked? How do you know you didn't miss something at one of the other locations? Or worse yet, what if what's happening to you began someplace completely unrelated to your archaeological history? Sam nodded agreeably. All good, reasonable questions. But I just don't think so. Something happened to me there in the jungle. Something that changed my life. And I've been starting to remember. Remember what? Franklin said. For the longest time, that part of my life has been largely a blur. We were all so sick back then. Malaria hit us hard, lost a team member to it. We were dehydrated, malnourished, and largely unprepared for what it would take to find this lost tribe. But eventually we did. To our surprise, they took us in and cared for us, nursed us back to health. When I recovered, I tried to communicate with the elders that I was looking for the temple. I thought they understood me when they assigned me a young boy who would serve as my guide. But instead of taking me to the temple, he led me through the jungle to a series of chest-high cairns. Franklin was fully engaged as Sam continued. He started talking about the cairns, but I couldn't understand. Were they gravestones? Monuments? He walked through this clearing, pointing at each one, when I noticed a small waterfall on the far side, no more than knee-high, and next to it was what appeared to be a fruit tree, but it was unlike any indigenous species I knew. The fruit was long and cylindrical like an eggplant, but hairy with a fiery orange tip. So I tried one. You ate it? Exclaimed Franklin. How did you know it wasn't poisonous? I didn't, replied Sam. I just sort of felt it was something unique, special. I can't explain why, but I didn't eat it. Not really. I only managed a single bite when the boy slapped the fruit out of my hand. He started yelling at me and pointing at the tree. Then he ran off into the jungle. I was confused. I started to go after him, but I was intercepted by several of the tribe's warriors. And right then and there, they forcefully escorted me and my team out of the area and back to our boat on the river's shore. They waited there until we left. Sam inhaled deeply. I think the fruit, Franklin finished, sitting up. You think the fruit is the reason? Yes, Sam said. I do. Or the water that feeds it. But the answer is there, I'm sure of it now. He looked around the restaurant to make sure no one was in earshot before he said, I think that place is the reason I haven't aged since 1935. Franklin set his menu aside. So what will you do? Find it again, Sam said. Whatever it takes. I can't do this anymore. I can't watch the people I love die around me. It's too painful. I know most people would think of it as a gift, but it isn't. It really isn't. Sam wiped a tear from his eye. When your mother passed, I could barely keep it together. And now that your sister's gone, it feels even more lonely. I don't know what I'll do when... Franklin reached across the table and placed his hand on top of Sam's. We'll figure it out, he said. We will. Whatever it takes. I love you, Dad. Sam shouldered a tear from his cheek, and with all the pride a father could have for his child, said, I love you too, son.